Hello and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This is a frontline update for the 29th of December 2022, inching ever closer to 2023. What has happened on the front lines? Well, before we get there, let's talk about the overnight news and other little nuggets that might be of importance. And of course, we're going to be talking initially about the saturation missile attack, in fact, the largest one since the beginning of the war. Over 120 cruise missiles and other missiles were sent across into Ukraine, actually in the early morning this morning. This follows a drone attack that started last night. And initially, there were a bunch of drones that were sent across. I think they were all shot down, but I'm not 100% sure. But the missile attack seems to be the least effective missile attack that we've had, even though it's the largest. I'm not 100% sure that's the case. The news is still coming in, but I don't know that anything particularly crucial has been hit. There has been a number of places hit by the falling debris of missiles as they were shot down. Let's go first to our usual report of Russian losses from the Ukrainians before we talk in a little bit more depth about the cruise missile attack. This is obviously, as I say every day, indicative. Problems with accuracy, problems with propaganda. Russians don't produce the similar sorts of figures or equivalent statistics. Here, the Ukrainians say that 790 men were liquidated. That's an uptick. It's a definite uptick. And as I say, because this is indicative, this tells me that yesterday was a pretty bad day for the Russians. One tank, 10 APCs, 5 artillery pieces, 5 MRLS. So that's quite an important number there. That's 10 artillery systems that are now unable to be used against the Ukrainians. 1 helicopter, 10 drones. That's as a result of the drone attack last night, 15 fuel tanks and vehicles. So that's an uptick there. So this is, I think, a fairly bad day for the Russians, but we shall see. As we come on to the cruise missile attack, over 120 cents. This included S-300 missiles. So Mykolaiv received some S-300s. Mykolaiv is down here in the south, but also Kharkiv up here in the north. In Kharkiv, 4 missiles landed. This confirmed by the head of the region, Sineg Gubov, who says they were hit with probably S-300 in a couple of their districts. The target is critical infrastructure. No details on casualties yet. So it could be that the cruise missiles had very little effect in the interior. I know that Lviv is only running at, I think, is it 90% electricity, or it's lost 90%? But this could also be because the energy system was shut down. They knew this was coming. This has been coming for days, right? And then as soon as the missiles are up and in the air, the air raid sirens go off. So they know they're coming, and it's like gearing up for this. So one of the things they do to gear up now is kind of shut down the energy system so that it doesn't have adverse effect when it is hit. It's called de-energize the system. So I don't know whether that's a result of that, or whether elements of the critical infrastructure were hit in Lviv. Kiev had, I think, maybe 16 cruise missiles were taken out over Kiev, and I don't know that anyone landed on its target. I think the initial reports are that the air defense systems work really well, and this is very interesting. So with each subsequent saturation missile attack, the Ukrainians have better and better equipment that they're given from the West that is trickling through. They're getting training on that, and the pieces of equipment are put in place. The trouble, as I talked about in the video the other day, is that actually they're running out of S-300 missiles, and that's one of their mainstay pieces of equipment for air defense. So they do need something to replace the S-300s. But it seems like the air defense systems are working well. Here, however, a Ukrainian air defense site reportedly filmed somewhere in eastern Ukraine, so a bit of a lack of detail here, being struck by multiple Russian missiles during the missile barrages a few hours ago. So that's interesting. So if part of the cruise missile attacks were to hit the actual SAM sites or radar sites, that is a change from hitting almost exclusively critical infrastructure sites. That would be, I know it's an expensive way to take out these SAM sites, but my opinion would be, I was wondering why they weren't doing this earlier, which is use cruise missiles to hit some of these sites so that the further barrages of cruise missiles can get through. Anyway, that's that. Someone can discuss that approach in the thread. Russian Telegram channel states that a Russian S-300 missile launcher has been destroyed in Unechsky district of Bryansk Oblast by drones that dropped munitions on Russian positions. That's fascinating. So Bryansk is over here. If we come out, this is the Bryansk Oblast. So if the Ukrainians are sending drones across here and dropping munitions on S-300s, that's an interesting development and would be very useful because these S-300s are not just SAM sites, but they're in secondary mode. They are using them to attack ground sites, and Kharkiv is one place that is getting hit by S-300s, as we have already seen. So yeah, that's a very interesting development. This is an Igla, which is a Russian or Soviet era man pads. So these are man held, they're shoulder launched rockets that take out aerial targets. Here is a cruise missile. So what amazes me about this is as he fires, the camera goes down, but very shortly after that, a cruise missile is taken out. This missile must be going very quickly. The cruise missile is obviously going very quickly, but what takes it out must be going, obviously it needs to be going faster than the cruise missile, but it's going significantly faster. That is about 3 seconds before that hits. They are evidently super happy, and for good reason. So there have been cruise missiles sighted over basically a load of oblasts around. Air defenses have worked pretty well. Odessa took 21, so Odessa is here. 21 cruise missiles appear to have all been shot down. We knew it's coming. The Black Sea Fleet were active. They're active last night. The Ukrainians hit the Engels Air Base a couple of days ago, and that was probably the day that they were going to do the attack. It then got shifted, moved around, and is happened today. But the Ukrainians have been doing everything they could to stop that happening. Everything they could appears to be one sort of drone attack on Engels base, because that's obviously, if they could do more, they would do more. That's obviously them working at their capacity there. So moving off the cruise missile, Andrew. So there was also talk about drones then coming after the cruise missiles. I don't know if that's drones to see the damage, like reconnaissance drones, whether there was a bunch of those sent up by the Russians to get an idea of the damage they'd done, rather than a Shahed. So there was a Shahed wave that happened. Again, can't quite work out how big that was. The figures say 10 were shot down. Don't know how many were sent up, and whether it was a lot more than that or just 10. Then the cruise missiles, then further drones. Let's move on to something else. Russian troops have set up trenches and pillboxes along the entire T-0401 highway between Tokmak and Polohi, with a few men at Russian disposal. I call this two things. Fixed fortifications are monuments to men's stupidity, says General Patton, and 45-kilometer lifeline ready to be cut. So again, this is like talking about whether the Russians really are expecting a big attack to be happening at some point soon. So there's Polohi and there's Tokmak. So along this highway, defences have been built, trenches. They are not useless. Some might say they're not great, these trenches, but they're better than not having them at all for the Russians. Finally, it seems a drone attack has ended. This is going back to drones. 3 separate waves of launches by Russia, resulting in some central regions having air raid sirens for over 2 hours. No known casualties. Air defense worked well, but each time it reveals positions to the terrorist state. So sorry, that was from last night. That one was in the wrong place, so I should have said that earlier. Sorry about that. But yeah, 3 waves of drones, but I just don't know how many the total was. And that's in the wrong place. So Odessa shot down actually 21. And then the last thing I wanted to say just show you was this, which is as you saw in the stats, one helicopter was taken down. Well, this looks like it was a helicopter. It was a forced landing. Not sure the details about this, but the Russian pilots blew up their own helicopter. So one would assume it's fallen close to Ukrainian lines or behind them. And then they filmed themselves blowing up the helicopter. Now, that's interesting because those Russian pilots would have taken this video and this video's got out. So whether the Russian pilots then were able to escape back to behind their own lines, I'm not sure, but that's them blowing up, which is actually what they should do. This is what they haven't been doing enough to their tanks and other sort of tracked and wheeled pieces of equipment that end up getting captured. They abandon them and don't blow them up, but you should be throwing hand grenades down and blowing them up so the enemy doesn't catch it. It's a zero-sum game. If you lose one abandoned main battle tank, the enemy gets it. So you need to stop that being a zero-sum game. You lose that and the enemy doesn't get it. Anyway, let's go on to the front lines. And we will go, as per usual, to the northeast, starting in the Kupiansk area, in the Kupiansk-Svatiove-Kreminna front line, all the way down here. So let's have a look at my map, and we're going to go straight away to northeast of Kupiansk. Kupiansk here, Svatiove further down south. So there is activity in this area, particularly around Vilshana and Poshcho-Trevnevi. Reports of shelling around there, which I've moved my Russian lines right back. I've moved the Russian line back around Tavlzhanka. Not sure of information out of Tavlzhanka. There was claims about, or there were claims about Ukraine making advances in that area, but shelling in Vilshana and Poshcho-Trevnevi would indicate there's some Ukrainian presence there if the Russians are shelling. As no report says, Poshcho-Trevnevi and Vilshana were both shelled. I put Vilshana back to contested. So I've actually agreed with that. And then we move further down south. So as we move further down there, it's a lot of talk about Kupiansk and Kolomoy-Chika, which are just, to the west of Svatiove. It seems like the Ukrainians are inching closer to Svatiove. There's a little settlement called, where is it, Zmivka, which is being shelled by the Ukrainians. So it looks like they are advancing ever closer because Kupiansk seems to be good indication that the Ukrainians now have control over that and at least part of Kolomoy-Chika. Defmon says it's likely that the Ukrainians advance in the area of Kolomoy-Chika and Kupiansk. The extent is unclear. Center of Defense Strategies reports UA 92nd Brigade and Belarusian volunteers liberated Kupiansk. There's a lot of reports of that. ISW claims Kolomoy-Chika is under Ukrainian control. GSUA confirmed the town was shelled by Russia. More confirmation needed, but we also lean towards control. And then another source saying that the Ukrainians also shelled Zmivka 3 kilometers from Svatiove. So the indications are that the Ukrainians are definitely making their way towards Svatiove in quite a meaningful way. Tendal says Ukrainians have most likely made some decent progress at the front line near Svatiove. The village of Kupiansk has been liberated, as well as at least northern part of Kolomoy-Chika. Our market is contested for now. To be sure, we will see in the next few days. So just to go back to my map, that's exactly what I've done. Northern part of Kolomoy-Chika, Kupiansk. If we come further down south, we come towards Makivka. Russians attacking towards Makivka, and the usual kind of repelled attacks at Ploshchanka and Chervono-Popivka. However, if we go to ISW now, so ISW doesn't really report on anything further north than Svatiove, but it says Ukrainian Eastern Group Forces spokesman Cherevati stated that Ukrainian forces continue to conduct operations to liberate Kreminna. In fact, they don't really talk about anything around Svatiove in today's report. Although he emphasized that it's too early to discuss the settlement's capture, Ukrainian officials reported that Russian civilian workers and Russian military command have evacuated from Kreminna, possibly indicating that Russian forces are preparing for an intensified Ukrainian effort to seize the settlement. So there are claims from Russian military bloggers that they are preparing the Ukrainians to preparing to attack from 3 directions. However, there is something that's a little bit worrying here. Where are we? Talking about a loss of some heights here. Here it is. Sorry. So A Russian mill blogger claimed that on December the 27th, elements of the 3rd Motorized Rifle Division, the 20th Combined Arms Army of the Western Military District, and the 74th Separate Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 41st Combined Arms Army of the Central Military District pushed Ukrainian forces out of strategic high elevation positions near the Bakhmut-Avdivka River. So where is that, and what are they particularly talking about? Well, I've done a little bit of digging on this, and this is the Russian military blogger source. I'm just going to translate it because it has some pretty interesting details. Yesterday, at the Svatiove-Kreminna front, a section of the Avdivka beam and event, although of local significance, did not become less important parts of those particular brigades attacked this height. The Chochols, who are the Ukrainians, derogatory term for them, could not withstand the onslaught and fled to the part of the Avdivka gully that remained under their control, suffering very heavy losses. Interestingly, some Ukrainian special forces were left to defend the height. At least this impression is created after examining the corpses of the enemy and the equipment abandoned by him. Our infantry significantly replenished their stocks with good captured weapons and ammunition from a certain unit of the armed forces of Ukraine called Kangal. Our offensive did not stop there, and the soldiers moved on to attack Makivka. So let's have a look at exactly where this is. The best I can gather is that it is around here, just south of Ploshchanka. There's a kind of river gully here, and then it comes to the heights, and then there's another sort of river gully there. And this might be the Balka-Zuravka river here. It's not really marked on the map at all. But if we look at the rebar infographic here, they said Ploshchanka is here, and the Balka-Zuravka is just sort of to the southwest. And this is the attack that the Russians performed. We go to the topographic map. Ploshchanka is up here, and just to the south, there are heights, and there's maybe a gully. This is the one that the Ukrainians retreated to, a gully that they control, and the Russians took control of the heights over here. That's what I'm imagining. That's slightly worrying because then it leaves Ploshchanka, flanked on two sides. But yeah, we'll see how that develops. It could just be a local victory. Don't know how many troops died. Not sure, or we'll find out, I hope. And then it's all about Kreminna. The idea that the Ukrainians, according to the Russians, are attacking from three directions. You would imagine that would be trying to flank down from Zitlivka, up from the south through the forest, and possibly through this area here, or sort of like, if you like, a frontal assault. Not too much detail other than what I've already said. Bear with me 2 ticks. So, no report says Commando Cherevati confirmed Russia moved its command center away from Kreminna. He also said Kreminna is not deoccupied yet. Well, you wouldn't expect it to be that quick, right? Russia shelled Chervono-Popivka again. The Ukrainian 81st Brigade stormed the area east of Bilorivka near the water facility with success. So this is interesting. But I haven't managed to find too much information on that, and it doesn't really fit with what ISW say, which is another Russian military blogger, although that's from the Russian side, claimed on December 28th that Russian forces attempted to advance near Bilorivka. So here is the claim that Bilorivka, the Ukrainians have stormed some area to the east of Bilorivka, and the Russians are attacking around Bilorivka. So, make of that what you will. This could be the water facility there that the Ukrainians have apparently stormed. So that would be really good news for the Ukrainians there, because they've been finding it quite tough around here, especially as we go further south. And in fact, further south we'll go now. So as we come down south to basically the Bakhmut area, the ISW reports repelled attacks in pretty much everywhere along here. The Russians are claiming success around Soledar. I haven't really heard much about this Bilorivka and actually Yakovlivka particularly. But there are claims that the Russians are making progress in Soledar and Pidorodny. So this is what Rebels say. Intense fighting continues south and northeast of Bakhmut. In southeast Bakhmut, fighters of the Ukrainian 57th Brigade tried to attack Russian positions, but were surrounded and retreated with heavy losses. Wagner stormed 2 strongholds near Pidorodny in northeast Bakhmut. I won't go to the south yet. So there are a couple of claims about Soledar. Let's go to what Defmon says. So Defmon says, increase attacks north of Bakhmut. As I have mentioned before, I believe Bakhmut is safe as long as Ukraine holds Soledar. Russian channels report Wagner are attacking around Soledar. They also report fighting on the outskirts of Klishchivka. So he's saying that Soledar is super important. At the same time, Russian mill blogger claimed that elements of the Wagner group pushed through Ukrainian fortified positions in Soledar. So definitely saying this is the important linchpin to the defense of Bakhmut. Then this is important, and established control over two strongholds near Pidhorodne. Russian military bloggers claim the Russian forces are advancing from positions near Bakhmut towards Soledar and tried to advance towards Bakhmut from positions southeast of Soledar. A Russian mill blogger claimed the Russians are fighting Ukrainians in urban areas to the southern and eastern outskirts of Bakhmut. Russian mill bloggers continue to claim that Ukrainian forces are suffering heavy losses in the Bakhmut area, and claiming that Russian forces conducted assaults south of Bakhmut near Divlivka and Opitny and captured strongholds on the eastern outskirts of Klishchivka. Okay, so let's try and kind of gather all that together. So it looks like they are attacking towards Soledar from the sort of Bakhmut area, which must be maybe from Bakhmutska, whilst also, gaining some ground in Soledar as well as Pidhorodny. So a couple of outposts, strongholds around there. Strongholds could just be, single buildings that they've been struggling to take over that the Ukrainians have held and caused them problems. So, on the one hand, that might be, it's only a couple of buildings out of all these buildings. On the other hand, it shows progress for the Russians as well. Fighting, don't have any particular details around the eastern suburbs. I haven't moved my maps at all since yesterday. Slightly unsure of what's going on with our good friend, the waste sorting plants. But there you go. As you can see from the latest War Mapper map, they show that Opitny has shown advances for the Russians, and that this waste sort, and that there are advances in the industrial area to the east of Bakhmut, but that the waste sorting plant is sort of half contested. So yeah, there we go on that one. You No report says Wagner managed to retake ground in Opitny after my initial thoughts of claims being debatable. Russia did manage to push AFU back. Opitny is 50-50 again, very fluid, and fighting continues northeast of Soledar and Bakhmutsk. Situation is hard, which is kind of open admission that things aren't probably going as well in Soledar and Bakhmutsk as the Ukrainians would like. Defmon warns no evidence supporting the Russian claims has emerged, but I find it plausible their claims are true. But even if we hear reports of the Russians running out of stormtroops and they are running low on ammo, we should not underestimate their capabilities. They still have a large number of mobilized, which has not yet committed to the fight. Those will have some training. And in fact, the ISW has a whole section about the idea that and we talked about this yesterday, that the Russians are culminating in Bakhmut. So US military doctrine defines culmination as the, quote, point at which the force no longer has the capability to continue its form of operations, offense or defense. And when a force cannot continue the attack and must assume a defensive posture or execute an operational pause. If Russian forces in Bakhmut have indeed culminated, they may nevertheless continue to attack aggressively. Culminated Russian forces may continue to conduct ineffective squad-size assaults against Bakhmut, though these assaults could be very unlikely to make operationally significant gains. Well, we shall see, because it does look like they are making gains. The question is whether they are significant enough to sort of mean anything in the long term. We have around Opitny, the Ukrainians losing ground, such that it is now again 50-50. Now, Rebar talks about there being battles on Neberezhna Street in Opitny. I can't for the life of me find out where that is. I've tried everywhere. It's not marked. And then I find some indication that it's here, but then these watermarks aren't in Opitny. So I just don't quite understand where that is. I'm sure someone with more time than I have could find out where the fighting is in Opitny, but I would say that there's every chance that it now looks something like this in Opitny. Oops, I've added lots of waypoints there. Oh, well. So, yeah, 50-50 Opitny will look something like that. Uh, but who knows exactly? There's ongoing fighting, and we shall see how that turns out. Anyway, uh, Klishchivka, just to the southwest of there, sorry, is under some kind of pressure, or quite a lot of pressure from the Russians. It seems a lot of people reporting that there are, elements of the Russians inside Klishchivka fighting over some of the housing there. Not sure, like I said before, what the east is, whether it's kind of the northeast or this southern area. Who knows? But I would say that things aren't looking as good for the Ukrainians in Klishchivka as well. And then if we come out of here and go a little bit further south, Kherson, repel fighting around there, but they're pressuring there, and also towards Druzhba. Toretsk is very well defended, as is New York, and has been for 8 years. There's lots of trench lines here, but there is a lot of talk that the Russians are really trying to pressure here because of the importance of Konstantinivka. Let me show you where that is before I draw a few bits and pieces. So you've got this hub here. This is a hub for Bakhmut, providing a lot for Bakhmut. There's a lot of logistics that operates out of there, but also down to Toretsk and New York. So if the Russians can break through around Kodimivka through Bilahora, and get some and sever this line here and sever that road here, then the Ukrainians are going to be in something of a bit of trouble. Yes, they can still get supplies into Toretsk. But again, if they can force their way through Zaitsny, or sort of Zalizny, just here, there are reports that it's becoming quite hot around New York again. So there are lots of options for the Russians for cutting these G-locks, these ground lines of communication that connect all these settlements. So yeah, watch out for the area just south of Bakhmut. And as we come down to Avdivka, again, not a huge amount of information out of there. There have been claims of advances towards Alexandropol, just north of the Avdivka area. And then in the Avdivka area, claims of fighting Opitny, also Pervomaisky on the outskirts of Pervomaisky. And then as we come, actually, it's worth noting that there are important positions that really the Russians want to take out, so that they feel that Donetsk city has been, shelled for 8 years now. They say, and there are places of Ukrainian artillery that are really important. They see for them to take out to give Donetsk city a buffer zone. But of course, this shows the importance of Avdivka, because if they can't take Avdivka, then they can't move that buffer zone back and give Donetsk city a break. But there you go. Just not a lot of information or movement in the whole area. Russia shelled Novomykhailivka, Avdivka, Marinka, Vuhledar, and some other towns. In general, it's calm. Only in Marinka, the fighting is heavy on a daily basis. The map changes daily in Marinka. Both parties control half, some or less. So it is fairly fluid in Marinka, pretty horrible, but no real news out of there. And that's pretty much the same as we sort of come out, zoom out of that area. Just repelled attack, lots of shelling, and this and that going on. There is a news of Ukrainian a recon group from the Ukrainians being taken out by the Russians. Not an unusual sort of claim that we hear on a daily basis. This time in Volodymyrivka. So the Ukrainians losing or getting suffering some heavy losses, according to the Russians there. But talking about heavy losses, and this is something reporting Ukraine was talking about. there's this claim that the Russians were moving a lot of reinforcements and mobilized troops through Mariupol to Tokmak, and then Tokmak was hit over the last few days, usual sort of HIMARS stuff, and they lost. And this could be why we've had an uptick in liquidated personnel on today's stats. They lost between 200 and 300 troops dead and injured. Not sure the exact number of deaths. So the claim is, up to 300 troops taken out in Tokmak because there are these forced concentrations and accumulation of troops. You'd think they'd learn that Tokmak is not the place to hang out. And then there are claims that a further 200 troops, mobilized troops, deserted. And deserted from Tokmak, which leaves, an impact of minus 500 troops in this area. I mean, that's massive. Now, how much of that's propaganda? How much of that is inaccurate guesstimation, or how much of it is accurate estimation? I don't know, but that could explain something of the 700 and something troops reported as liquidated in today's daily figures. But that's an interesting video worth looking at that by reporting from Ukraine. Other than that, the usual sort of stuff going on. It's mainly about the cruise missile attacks and drone attacks, heavy activity in the air around Mykolaiv and Odessa, Kherson getting its usual shelling, artillery duels across there. But I've spoken for too long. So anyway, there you go. That's a frontline update. The last thing I want to say, which I forgot to say earlier, which annoys me, is I talked yesterday about Saratov Engels Air Base getting hit, and that it appears that the Russians have removed their own S-300 and other surface-to-air missile batteries from around here that would otherwise protect Saratov from such a drone strike. Well, actually, the UK Ministry of Defence intelligence update today has come out and said exactly that. In the early hours of 26th of December, the Engels Air Base was attacked for the second time. Russia has long given a very high priority to maintaining advanced ground-based air defences, but it's increasingly clear that it's struggling to counter air threats deep inside Russia. One challenge for Russia is probably the exceptional demand on its fleet of modern medium-range air defence systems such as the SA-22 Pantsir, which would typically be expected to take a major role in countering UAVs, drones. As well as providing point defence for strategic sites such as Engels, these systems are currently required in large numbers to protect field headquarters near the front line in Ukraine. So that's to say that they have moved a bunch of these decent air defense systems and put them in the occupied areas of Ukraine to protect command and control structures and other installations around the occupied territories. Exactly what I was saying yesterday. So the Defense Intelligence Report sort of validates that claim. Anyway, that's that. Thanks so much for your support. Please like, subscribe, share. All the ways you can support my work: buy my books, buy me a coffee, all that kind of stuff. Details in the description below. As ever, just thank you so much. Take care, and I'll speak to you later.